There's concern some Australians with a hard-to-detect cancer are being regularly misdiagnosed. Neuroendocrine cancer affects around 25,000 Australians and is more common than ovarian and brain cancer, but very few people have heard of it, and its symptoms are common, including bloating, fatigue and abdominal pain. Meredith Cummins is the CEO of NeuroEndocrine Cancer Australia, and she joins me in the studio now. Meredith Cummins, thank you. Why is it important to bring awareness to these types of cancers?
It's so important to bring this awareness to everybody in Australia. The general community is not aware of these cancers, as is the healthcare professional community as well. Unless you're a specialist in neuroendocrine cancer, you really don't know much about it. It isn't really put through the medical universities. So we would really like to get that included in the curriculums, and also to get the community more aware of the symptoms that you just spoke about, with the diarrhoea, bloating, abdominal pain, wheezing, flushing, which can be thought to be very simple types of complaints, and they go to their GP, but so often they go to their GP over and over and over, and they don't think outside the square, and they don't think maybe we should be looking at neuroendocrine cancer so that we can actually get them diagnosed a lot earlier. There's about 60% of the patients have spread to other organs like their liver, so that means they're no longer curable. And there's 50% of those patients that have been misdiagnosed with something else, and it takes 5 to 7 years before they get a correct diagnosis, which is a long time for people to be feeling there's something not right with me, and for the doctor to say we can't find anything.
Well, that sort of brings me to the next question, because the symptoms that you describe are quite common. So if people are feeling that there is something not right, they need to trust their gut. How do they advocate for themselves?
I think they really need to just go and speak to their doctor, also build up a really good relationship with their doctor and get heard. We've got to make sure that the doctors are actually hearing what our patients are saying, so that they can then start to investigate. We do have an analogy, sort of, if you hear hoofs, it's not necessarily a horse. It could be a zebra, or it could be a unicorn. And in Europe, the zebra is the symbol for neuroendocrine cancer, and it's because zebras don't have the same stripes on them. So we really want to make sure that everybody is treated individually, they're heard, and they can then get investigated and get diagnosed a lot earlier.
And as you say, this diagnosis is taking up to 7 years in some cases. I imagine if you catch it earlier, it's much more treatable.
It is, yes. So if it is diagnosed earlier and it's only sort of fairly small, then there is a chance, if surgery is an option, that it can be removed by surgery. If it's not an option, there are treatments that can keep people sort of, in a good quality of life and a prolonged life, because some of our patients, if it's a low grade, are living with it for 10, 20 years or more. So it needs to be that it's actually diagnosed and then it's treated. And so we want to make sure that we're enabling people to have a better life and not have to have a poor prognosis.
Absolutely. And just very briefly, why do you think it's not on the radar?
Most people can't even say neuroendocrine cancer, so I think that's one of the things. It's not a common cancer, although it is the 7th most common cancer in Australia, and that's collectively. It can be anywhere within the body. So we also call them neuroendocrine tumours, NETs, which we also say are nearly everywhere tumours. So mostly it's in the gut, so it's anywhere from your mouth through to your bottom. 20% are in the lung. There's 10% that are actually hereditary, so they can be passed through genetics. But I think it's not a cancer that, if you think of breast cancer and all that, and ovarian, it's sort of like pink and fluffy and warm, whereas neuroendocrine cancer isn't that cancer. It's a cancer that is very badly sort of managed at the moment. It doesn't have a lot of funding put towards it either, so there's not a lot of research that we can actually sort of look at further treatments. So it's a cancer that's been neglected, and we want to make sure that it's not neglected, because having over 25,000 patients living with it in Australia, it's important that they get optimal care and they can get the same as every other cancer.
Meredith Cummins, thank you so much for making the time to come and talk to us.